Friends seekers and all who walk the endless path, let us contemplate the profound metamorphosis of the spiritual life in our time. The divine impulse, that inherent, relentless yearning for connection to the infinite, is consciously shedding the fixed narratives and inherited vestments of traditional religious frameworks. For millennia, the spiritual journey was a carefully charted map, defined by sacred texts, specific rituals, and the authority of a dedicated clergy. This structure offered essential order and comfort, anchoring human civilization in ethical principles. Yet, as our global awareness expands, fueled by unprecedented connectivity, scientific discovery, and a radical affirmation of individual experience, the soul insists on a different kind of freedom. This modern spiritual quest is not a rejection of holiness, but a deep, sincere homecoming, a realization that the ultimate sanctuary is not an external building of mortar and stone, but the quiet, open space of one's own heart. It is a demand for a direct, unmediated relationship with the mystery, recognizing that the sacred breath is not confined to the past, but pulses dynamically in the now, accessible to all who dare to look beyond the prescribed script and embrace the glorious autonomy of personal continuous revelation. The essential transformation lies in the shift from extrinsic authority to intrinsic truth. We are moving away from the paradigm of a distant, judging deity whose will is interpreted by institutions toward the perception of immanent divinity, an underlying field of consciousness, a love that weaves through every atom of existence. This change reframes the purpose of spiritual practice entirely. It is less about earning favor or avoiding punishment, and entirely about achieving alignment, recognizing the inherent unity of the self with the whole. Practices of deep contemplation and mindfulness have diffused into the secular world, not as acts of piety toward a specific god, but as transformative technologies for clearing the inner lens. The concept of sin is softened from a rigid transgression to a state of separation or temporary forgetfulness of our true nature. Salvation is not something granted post-mortem, but an awakening realized in this life through persistent inner work and the courageous shedding of egoic illusion. This perennial wisdom, once cloaked in various specific faiths, is now appreciated in its universal, cross-cultural essence, affirming that all authentic paths are merely different names for the same luminous destination. A defining characteristic of this emerging spirituality is its harmonious integration with scientific and cosmic understanding. The ancient creation stories are cherished for their powerful metaphorical truth, serving as psychological blueprints rather than literal, restrictive history. The astounding vastness revealed by astronomy, the complexity unveiled by biology, and the interconnectedness demonstrated by physics do not diminish the sacred. They expand it to an unimaginable scale. The cosmos itself becomes the primary cathedral, and the laws of nature are the elegant, immutable expression of the divine mind. To realize that the atoms composing our bodies were forged in distant, exploding stars is not a mere scientific curiosity, but a profound, direct spiritual realization of our physical kinship with the universe. Our connection is fundamentally material as well as metaphysical, a co-creation spanning eons. This synthesis frees the seeker from the need to choose between reason and faith. Instead, they become complementary pathways to wonder. Reason reveals how the universe operates, and the modern, open faith provides the conviction that this operation is inherently purposeful, intelligent, and meaningful. Furthermore, this path is profoundly marked by an embrace of radical inclusivity and active ethical concern. Where traditional religions often erected boundaries of orthodoxy, defining who belonged and who was outside, the contemporary impulse recognizes the inherent divinity in all beings, regardless of background, belief, or identity. The focus shifts entirely from strict adherence to creed to the public, demonstrable manifestation of compassion and justice in the world. True spiritual practice is understood not as isolated ritual, but as how one engages with the suffering and beauty of the earth. Environmental stewardship, social justice advocacy, and the commitment to alleviating systemic inequity are not peripheral acts of charity. They are the bedrock of a living faith, the outward expression of an awakened heart. The earth is no longer merely a resource, but Gaia, a sacred living entity. Injury to the planet is injury to the collective soul, making healing the world synonymous with the healing of the self. The elevation of personal mythology and authentic self-expression represents another key departure. The seeker is encouraged to become their own theologian, integrating personal experience, psychological insights, and cultural heritage into a unique, evolving worldview. This involves a deep engagement with the subconscious mind, drawing upon archetypes, dreams, and profound synchronicity as guiding communications from the deeper self or universal consciousness. The journey is framed as the hero's journey, where the individual must bravely confront their own shadow, integrate fragmented parts, and bring the unique treasure of their realized self back into the community. This focus on individuation transforms holiness from a state of moral perfection to a state of profound wholeness, the courageous integration of all aspects of being, light and shadow alike, to stand fully and authentically present in one's own truth. However, this freedom mandates a robust sense of discernment and groundedness. Without the external checks of institutional authority, the spiritual marketplace can become riddled with commercialization, intellectual fads, and the dangerous temptation of spiritual bypassing, which uses platitudes to avoid genuine, difficult inner work. The command to be one's own guru is demanding, requiring sustained self-honesty, discipline, and ethical rigor. The mature seeker understands that freedom is not an absence of constraints, but the conscious choice of those disciplines that truly facilitate inner growth. The religious core of this modern movement must therefore cultivate ethical responsibility, anchoring personal revelation in universal compassion, and engaging with the very traditions it seeks to transcend not as prisons to flee, but as indispensable wellsprings of deep, time-tested wisdom and spiritual technology. The future of faith appears to be a shimmering tapestry of interfaith dialogue, hybrid practice, and decentralized community. Seekers connect not based on shared dogma, but on shared values, shared methods of contemplation, and a mutual commitment to growth. The community of the spirit is a fluid, global network, a constellation of souls drawn together by energetic resonance. An individual may draw wisdom from the silence of Zen, the bodily wisdom of yoga, the mystical poetry of Sufism, and the ethical structure of secular humanism, weaving these threads into a unique, personal form of devotion. This synthetic approach acknowledges that the divine speaks in 1,000 languages and through a myriad of forms. The highest expression of this modern spirituality is the recognition of the sacred commonwealth, the universal community of all beings united by the simple, profound fact of conscious existence. Ultimately, this movement of spirituality beyond fixed frameworks is an unwavering call to unconditional, enacted love. Stripped of the security of inherited systems, the seeker stands vulnerable before the vastness of existence, compelled to respond to the world not with fear or judgment, but with an open-hearted empathy that mirrors the divine's own radical acceptance. This is the authentic faith of our time, a deep existential trust in the goodness that underlies reality, a trust that must be continually proven through courageous acts of vulnerability, forgiveness, and profound human connection. The journey's fulfillment is not found in a distant external heaven, but in the radical, luminous acceptance of the ordinary moment as the only true locus of the sacred.